The space station, called Virex Prime, floated like a silver city in the dark. It was bigger than any human city ever built. Long halls curved like rivers of metal. Lights from 1,000 worlds shone through wide glass walls. Voices of many species mixed together, deep, sharp, soft, and strange. Humans were new here. They walked carefully. They spoke softly. Most aliens looked at them with curiosity, doubt, or quiet judgment. Humans were known as loud, emotional, and easy to read. Many believed humans were weak because they showed their feelings so openly. Evan knew this better than anyone. He stood inside one of the station's grand meeting chambers, wearing a simple dark uniform. He was not important enough to sit at the main table. He was a diplomat assistant, trained to observe, listen, and never speak unless asked. Evan was good at his job. He thought before he spoke. He chose words like tools, carefully and slowly. One wrong sentence could cause anger. One wrong tone could start a conflict. Today's meeting was important. Across the wide room stood Lirena. She was not human. Her species was tall and graceful, with smooth, pale skin that seemed to glow under the lights. Her eyes were sharp and bright, like polished crystal. Her movements were controlled, precise, almost perfect. She belonged to a warrior-scholar race, a people known for discipline, honor, and emotional control. They believed emotions weakened the mind. To them, showing feeling was shameful. Evan watched as she spoke to the council. Her voice was calm, steady, and powerful. Every word was chosen with care. Every pause carried meaning. As Evan listened, something unexpected happened. He stopped thinking. He noticed the way she stood so straight, unafraid of anyone in the room. He noticed the quiet strength in her eyes. He noticed the confidence in her voice. And without planning it, without warning, Evan whispered one word: beautiful. The sound was soft, but the room heard it. Everything stopped. The air felt heavy, like it had turned to stone. Alien guards stiffened and moved their hands closer to their weapons. Diplomats froze in their seats. Some turned slowly to stare at Evan, eyes wide with shock. A human had just spoken out of turn. Worse, he had spoken a personal word to a warrior scholar. Evan felt his heart race. He knew what this could mean: insult, punishment, even removal from the station. He opened his mouth to apologize, but then he saw her face. Lirena's eyes widened just a little. It was a small change, almost impossible to see. Then her lips moved. She smiled. Not a polite smile, not a forced one, a real smile. The room seemed to breathe again, but fear remained. Her species did not smile, not in public, not in meetings, not at humans. She stepped closer to Evan. Each step echoed across the chamber. No guards stopped her. She looked directly at him. Her gaze was calm, but curious, dangerous. Then she spoke, her voice low and clear. "Say it again, human." A quiet sound, a challenge. Evan swallowed. In that moment, he understood something important. This was not a mistake. This single word had crossed a line no human had crossed before. And whatever came next would not be simple diplomacy. It would change everything. The meeting ended, but the silence did not. As the council members left the chamber, whispers followed them through the halls of Virex Prime. Aliens of many species spoke in low voices, careful not to be heard. Why did she smile? Why did she not punish the human? That race has started wars for less. The story spread fast. By the time Evan returned to the human living quarters, everyone already knew his name.
His superiors called him into a small private room, their faces tense, voices sharp with fear. "You made a serious mistake," one of them said. "Her people do not forgive insults." Another leaned closer. "Stay away from her. If she feels challenged, humans will pay the price." Evan nodded and listened. He understood their fear. He felt it too. But later that same cycle, a message arrived. It carried a single request. Lirena wished to meet Evan privately. The words felt heavier than any threat. Guards escorted Evan through a quiet wing of the station, far from traders and diplomats. The walls were smooth and dark, the lights low and calm. This place was meant for serious talks, honest ones. Lirena stood alone in the room. No guards, no weapons. She turned as Evan entered. Her face was calm again, the smile gone. Only her sharp eyes watched him closely. "You spoke without permission," she said. "Why?" Evan took a slow breath. He did not try to hide his fear. "I wasn't thinking," he answered. "I spoke what I felt." Her eyes narrowed slightly. Was it a trick? No. Was it fear? No. She stepped closer. Then why say such a word? Evan looked at her directly. He knew this moment mattered. "Humans speak feelings openly," he said. "We see beauty as strength, not weakness. When something moves us, we say it." The room remained silent. Lirena studied his face, searching for lies. Her kind was trained to read tone, posture, and breath. Evan did not hide. He did not protect himself with silence. At last, she spoke again. "No one has ever spoken to me that way." Her voice was quieter now. "To my people, we are symbols, leaders, weapons, never persons." Evan listened. He did not interrupt. "You did not see a warrior," she continued. "You did not see a threat. You saw me." Something shifted in her expression. Not a smile, but something softer. "That is dangerous and powerful." Evan lowered his eyes. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You did," she replied, "but not the kind you think." She turned away and walked toward the wide window. Stars drifted slowly beyond the glass. "If humans believe emotion is strength, then prove it." Evan's heart tightened. "How?" She faced him again. "Not with weapons, not with force, with truth." She explained that her people tested outsiders not through battle, but through honesty. Most failed. They hid behind pride or fear. "If you lie," she said, "you will shame your species." Evan nodded once. "I will not lie." Lirena studied him for a long moment. Then she gave a slow, thoughtful nod. "Good," she said, "because the galaxy is watching now." As Evan left the room, he realized something chilling. Her smile had not stopped a war. It had delayed it. And what came next would decide far more than his own fate. The trial chamber was silent. It was a wide circular room made of dark stone and metal. Soft light fell from above, touching the faces of the council. They sat in a perfect circle, tall and still, their expressions calm and unreadable. This was not a place for battle. There were no weapons, no guards, no armor, only truth. A voice echoed through the chamber. "What does the human fear most?" Evan felt the weight of the question. Many expected him to speak of death or pain. He did not rush his answer. "I fear losing those I care about. I fear surviving when they do not." A small movement passed through the council, not surprise, interest. Another voice followed. "When all hope is lost, Who would you protect? Evan closed his eyes for a moment. He saw faces, friends, family, people long gone. I would protect those who cannot protect themselves, even if I fail. The chamber grew colder. A third question came sharper than the rest. Why does humanity still smile when the universe is cruel? Some council members leaned forward. Other species watching from the upper levels whispered quietly. To them, emotion was weakness. Smiling in darkness was foolish. Evan opened his eyes. Because the universe doesn't care, he said simply. So we care for each other instead. Silence followed. He was not finished. Humans lose.
The news did not stay on Virex Prime. Within hours, messages traveled through trade routes, data relays, and diplomatic channels. Every major station heard the same story. A human had passed an alien emotional trial. A human had changed the mind of a warrior-scholar race. No weapons, no threats, no force. Across the galaxy, reactions were mixed. Some species were curious, others were afraid. In many councils, the same question was asked. If humans can win hearts instead of battles, one alien leader said, what else can they change? On Virex Prime, the mood shifted. Where humans were once ignored, now they were watched. Conversations stopped when they entered a room. Eyes followed them through the halls. Evan felt it everywhere. He was no longer just an assistant. He was a symbol. Not everyone liked that. In a private chamber far from public eyes, several alien representatives gathered. Their voices were sharp and angry. The human is a risk, one said. He weakens tradition, said another. If others follow his example, our power fades. The solution they spoke of was simple. Remove him, quietly, permanently. The plan moved fast. Evan sensed something was wrong when guards stopped escorting him. Doors took longer to open. Messages went unanswered. The station felt colder. One cycle later, he was called to a public assembly. The chamber was full, more than before. Species from many worlds filled the seats, some curious, some hostile. Evan stood alone at the center. A voice accused him. This human used manipulation, the voice said. Emotion is a weapon. He used it to weaken us. Murmurs spread. Evan did not speak. He had learned when silence was stronger. Then a familiar voice cut through the noise. Enough! Lirena stepped forward. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Her kind rarely spoke in defense of outsiders, never publicly. She stood beside Evan. You call emotion a weapon, yet you fear it. She turned to the council. This human did not deceive us. He showed us truth. Some objected. She did not stop. My people tested him. He did not break. He did not hide. Her eyes moved across the room, sharp and fearless. If honesty threatens you, then your strength was already weak. The chamber fell silent. She placed a hand over her chest, a sign of honor among her race. From this moment, humans are no longer to be underestimated. The words echoed. Evan felt his breath catch. He finally understood. That single word he spoke, beautiful, had crossed more than a personal line. It had touched something ancient, something powerful. Not a challenge of strength, a challenge of belief.
The assembly ended without violence, but the galaxy had changed. Humans were no longer seen as loud children or emotional fools. They were something new, a species that could stand unarmed before fear and speak. As Evan walked back through the station, he felt the weight of it all. This had never been about him. It had been about what humans represented, and it had started with one honest moment. Not through war, not through power, but through understanding. The day Evan was set to leave Virex Prime, the station felt different. The halls were quieter. Aliens who once looked away now watched him with open interest. Some nodded in respect. Others simply observed, careful and thoughtful. Humans were no longer invisible. Evan stood near the docking bay, staring out at the stars. His ship waited beyond the glass, ready to carry him home. He felt relief, but also something heavier. Before he could turn away, a familiar voice spoke behind him. "Human." Evan turned. Lirena stood a few steps away. She was not wearing ceremonial markings. She looked simpler now, more real. "This is farewell," she said. "Yes," Evan replied. They stood in silence for a moment, watching ships move through the dark. No guards, no councils, just two beings under the same stars. Then Lirena spoke quietly. "Would you still have said it if you knew the cost?" Evan did not answer right away. He thought of fear, of blame, of how close everything came to breaking. He thought of what one word changed the path of many worlds. Then he smiled. "Yes," he said, "I would." Lirena studied his face. There was no pride there, no regret, only truth. "My people spend their lives hiding feeling. We call it strength." She paused. "You showed us another kind." She took a slow breath, as if choosing words carefully, something she was not used to doing. "You are brave, human." The words were awkward, soft, real. Evan felt something warm in his chest. He bowed his head slightly, a human gesture of respect. "Thank you," he said. A signal sounded across the bay. Final boarding. Evan stepped toward the ship, then stopped. "Lirena," he said. She looked at him. "You are still beautiful." For a brief moment, she looked surprised. Then she smiled again. Not as a warrior, not as a leader, but as herself. Evan boarded the ship. The doors closed, engines hummed. Virex Prime slowly drifted away. Across the galaxy, stories began to spread. Not of conquest, not of destruction, but of a human who spoke honestly and changed the course of diplomacy. Other species began to speak differently to humans, listen differently, think differently. Humans gained a new reputation, not conquerors, not victims, but a species whose words could be stronger than weapons. And somewhere on a distant station, beneath alien stars, Lirena stood alone at a window. She watched the darkness where the human ship had vanished. She touched her chest, remembering a simple word that carried unexpected power. Beautiful.